The morning air on Green Meadow Farm held a secret. It was the kind of secret that hid in plain sight, waiting for someone small and gentle to discover it. Little Bear stood at the edge of the garden, his nose twitching, his ears listening. He knew something was different. He knew before he even opened his eyes. The sun was just rising over the barn, casting long shadows across the pumpkin patch. The dew was wet on Little Bear's paws as he padded down the path. He passed the carrot rows where the tops were still curled like sleepy green fingers. He passed the hen house where the chickens were still murmuring their morning songs. He passed the apple tree where the last few fruits hung like lanterns from the night before. But he did not stop. He was going to the hive. The hive was his favorite place on the whole farm, not because of the buzzing, which he loved, and not because of the golden combs, which he loved too, but because of the honey that tasted like 100 wildflowers in the morning sun and the patience of 1,000 bees. He reached the hive and stopped. He waited. He listened. He smelled. The hive was quiet. Too quiet. Little Bear's ears drooped. He pressed his nose close to the wooden entrance. There was no buzz. There was no hum. There was no tiny bee dance. There was only silence. And in that silence, Little Bear realized the truth. He had forgotten to make honey. Now, you must understand how this happened. Every spring, Little Bear helped the bees. He showed them where the sweetest flowers grew. He carried water when the pond was far. He guarded the hive from the wind. And when autumn came, the bees would fill the comb with honey, and Little Bear would take a small jar for winter. But this year, something was different. This year, Little Bear had been too busy. He had been helping Farmer Gray fix the fence. He had been gathering apples for the barn. He had been playing with the lambs in the meadow. He had been doing so many things that he had forgotten the most important thing of all. He had forgotten to help the bees. The bees, you see, need a friend to show them where the flowers are. Not just any flowers, the right flowers, the ones that hold the sweetest nectar, the ones that bloom in the morning and close by noon. Without that friend, the bees wander. They find some flowers, yes, but not enough. And without enough flowers, there is no honey. Little Bear sat down on the grass. He looked at the empty hive. He looked at his own paws. And for a long moment, he felt very small and very sad. That feeling of noticing you have forgotten something important. It is a quiet kind of ache. If you have ever felt that, you know it well. And if you would like to stay with Little Bear as he learns what to do next, you are welcome here, night after night. Subscribe to this little farm so you and your little one can return to Green Meadow Farm whenever the sun goes down. And in the comments, tell me, what is something you have almost forgotten, but then remembered just in time? But then something happened. The sun rose a little higher. A ray of light fell across the hive. And Little Bear saw something he had missed before. A single bee. One tiny bee sitting on the edge of the hive. Its wings folded. Its body still. It was waiting. Little Bear leaned closer.
You'll be all right.
Hello,
Just
he
a
whispered.
little rest.
Are you the last one? The bee did not answer, but it turned its head. It looked at Little Bear with its tiny compound eyes. And in that look, Little Bear understood. It was not too late. He remembered the meadow beyond the old oak tree. He remembered the patch of clover that grew under the fence. He remembered the lavender that bloomed near the stone wall. All those flowers, still full of nectar, all waiting for a friend to find them. Little Bear stood up slowly. He brushed the grass from his fur. He walked back to the hide where the bees kept their secret maps. He found the small wooden comb that the bees had drawn on, and he traced the lines with his paw, following the marks he had made himself seasons ago. The first mark was a circle. That was the old oak tree. The second was a wavy line. That was the stream. The third was a tiny shape that looked like a star. That was the patch of clover he had planted with his own paws. A seed, he remembered. He had tucked it into the soil one spring morning, before the frost had fully left the ground. He had covered it with dirt. He had watered it, and then he had forgotten. But the clover had not forgotten. It had grown. It had bloomed. And it was still blooming, right now, in the far corner of the meadow. Little Bear's heart felt lighter. He turned to the single bee. Stay, he said. I will bring the flowers to you. But the bee did not need to stay. It knew what to do. When Little Bear reached the clover, the bee was already there. It danced in the air, tracing a figure 8, showing the other bees that had been hiding in the hive, showing them where to go. Little Bear watched as the first bee landed on a clover blossom. It dipped its tongue into the tiny cup of nectar. It drank, and then it flew back toward the hive, carrying a single drop of sweetness. Then another bee came, and another. And soon the air was full of soft buzzing, the sound of a hive waking up, the sound of work beginning. Little Bear did not leave. He sat in the clover patch, the sun warm on his fur, the bees swirling around him like a golden cloud. He did not reach for them. He did not try to help. He simply sat and waited and watched. This was the hardest part. The waiting, the knowing that you cannot rush something that takes time, the knowing that the honey will come, but only when the bees are ready. If you have ever planted a seed and waited for it to grow, you know that feeling. The days pass. The soil stays brown. You water it, you watch it, you whisper to it. And then, one morning, you see a tiny green coal, and you wonder if it was there yesterday, and you just didn't see it. That is how the honey came. By evening, the hive was humming again. Little Bear could smell the sweetness building inside. He pressed his nose close and breathed deep. It was not yet ready, but it was coming. That night, Little Bear curled up under the stars. The farm was quiet. The crickets sang. The moon rose over the barn. And Little Bear knew that tomorrow he would help the bees again. He would show them the lavender. He would show them the clover. He would stay with them until the last flower closed. He closed his eyes. He thought of the honey, not yet made, but already imagined. He thought of the bees, dancing in the morning light. He thought of the taste of honey, warm on his tongue, the taste of patience, work and waiting. And as he drifted towards sleep, A single bee flew past his nose, a tiny whisper in the dark. It settled on his paw for just a moment, and then it flew back to the hive, carrying the secret of another day. Little Bear smiled in his sleep. The farm breathed. The moon sailed on, and the honey, hidden in the dark, was waiting for dawn. A single drop of dew fell from a rosehip and landed on the clover. Little Bear did not stir. His breathing was slow, like the tide of a very gentle sea. Far away in the heart of the hive, the bees were still working. They did not need the light to find the comb. They knew each cell by heart. They knew where the queen was sleeping. They knew where the honey was growing. Drop by drop, they filled the emptiness. And in the morning, when the first grey light touched the barn roof, Little Bear would wake. He would walk to the hive. He would press his nose to the entrance. And he would smell something new, something that was not there the night before. The first whisper of honey, the beginning of sweetness. But that was still hours away. For now, there was only the dark, only the quiet, only the sound of Little Bear's breath, rising and falling, deep and steady. The stars turned overhead. The moon began its slow descent, and the farm, from the hen house to the pumpkin patch to the silent hive, rested in the arms of night. Little Bear dreamed of clover and of bees, and of the taste of honey yet to come. And the dream was as real as the fur on his back, as real as the earth beneath his sleeping paws. This is the moment when the farm holds its breath, and we hold it too. If you have been here before, you know how good it feels to be part of something that takes its time. If this is your first night, welcome. You belong here now. Subscribe to this quiet little channel so you and your little one can keep walking through Green Meadow Farm together, one evening at a time. And in the comments, tell me, what are you waiting for that is still not quite ready? The old barn owl, perched on the highest beam, watched the scene below. She had seen 1,000 nights on Green Meadow Farm, but this one felt different. The stillness was not empty. It was full. In the kitchen of the farmhouse, a single candle still burned. Farmer Gray had left it there. A small flame to guide anyone who might wake in the dark. He did not know about the hive. He did not know about the bear who had almost forgotten. But the candle knew. It burned steady and quiet. A promise that the morning would come. The single bee that had settled on Little Bear's paw did not return to the hive right away. It lingered near his sleeping face, a tiny guardian in the dark. It watched his whiskers twitch. It watched his chest rise and fall, and when it was sure he was safe, it flew to the window of the farmhouse and pressed itself against the glass, waiting for the first crack of light. And then, without hurry, without fuss, the farm began its slow turn toward day. A rooster stirred in the hen house, not yet ready to call, but aware that the moment was near. The apple tree outside the kitchen window let go of a single leaf, which fell spinning through the grey air and landed on the pumpkin below. The soil in the carrot patch shifted slightly as a worm began its slow travel toward the surface. Little Bear did not open his eyes, but his nose twitched. He smelled the clover. He smelled the dew. He smelled something else, something faint but real. drifting from the hive on the first current of morning air. The honey was there. Not much. Not yet. But it was there. And that was enough. The sun rose, slow and orange, spilling light across the pasture. The rooster called at last. A sound that rolled across the farm like a warm tide. The chickens stepped out of the hen house one by one, their feathers catching the gold. The bees emerged from the hive, first one, then 3, then a dozen, and began their dance in the new light. Little Bear opened his eyes. He stood up, shook the dew from his fur, and walked to the hive. He pressed his nose to the entrance. He breathed in, and there it was. The smell he had been waiting for. The smell of patience. The smell of work. The smell of a promise kept. He did not need to see the honey. He did not need to taste it. He knew it was there. He knew that the bees had not given up. He knew that the clover had not stopped blooming. He knew that the soil, the seeds, the sun, and the rain had all done their part, and that he had done his too, even if he had almost forgotten how. A single bee landed on his nose. It stayed there for 3 full heartbeats, and then it flew back to the hive, into the dark, into the work, into the sweetness that was growing cell by cell, drop by drop, hour by hour. Little Bear sat down in the grass. He watched the bees come and go. He watched the sun climb higher. He watched the farm wake up around him. And he felt in his chest the quiet joy of having remembered just in time. That is the thing about honey. It does not come fast, but it always comes if you wait long enough. And if you help the bees find the flowers,
And full.
and if you believe when the hive is silent, that the buzzing will return. The morning air on Green Meadow Farm held the same secret it had held at dawn. But now, Little Bear knew it. The bees knew it. The soil knew it. And somewhere, in a dark corner of the hive, the first drop of new honey was resting, round and golden, waiting to be tasted. And that, for now, was the whole story.